Good evening, my phantasmic friends, and welcome to Monsters Among Us Junior, the only podcast in existence given 2 wings up by the Mothman, El Chupacabra, and the Jersey Devil. I'm your MAU Mima, Delaney Bowers, and I'll be joined by my co-host, Derek Hayes, in 2 shakes of a lucky rabbit's foot. Alright, hooligans, I consulted my tarot deck this morning, and I have some good news and some not so good news. The big bummer is that this episode is the last episode of the season. For as much fun as we've been having with Monsters Among Us Junior, even podcast hosts need a vacation every now and then. Plus, my plane tickets to Transylvania are definitely non-refundable. But the good news is we have a spine-tingling season finale locked and loaded for you tonight. Be sure to listen all the way through, too, since Derek has some important information to share at the end of the show. Okay, now that those details have been squared away, let's check our hotlines. And wouldn't you know it, there's a call waiting from fellow listener Zane in Minnesota.
Okay, I am Zane, and I live in Minnesota. Sorry, I'm just very, very excited to share my story. So, this happened 2023 Super Bowl, and me and my friends, I'm not going to share their names because I don't know if they're okay with that, but me and my friends, specifically 2 other friends, went into our basement, and I don't believe in ghosts, and I don't believe in paranormal stuff, but I still buy, like, a Ouija board, and, for instance, what we used in this, an EMF reader. I don't know if this is kind of a story that you share, but, like, I would really like answers about this. So, we bring my EMF reader downstairs and a Ouija board, and first we light some candles, because one of my friends have never done anything scary like this before, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to show you that it doesn't work and stuff, because they actually believed in it, and I always try and figure out something that describes what happened, and I just cannot describe this experience. So we're in our basement, and we're first playing with the Ouija board, and for a solid hour and a half, nothing happens, and we're like, okay, this is dumb, like, we're just going to, like, try the EMF reader for some reason, and, like, we're like, oh, are you here and stuff, and it goes up a little bit, and we're like, okay, and we set all of our electronics outside of the room, lock the door, turn off all the lights, and light even more candles. So we have like 5 candles lit, we're all in a circle, and we're like, would you like us to do a seance and stuff? And it spikes up, so we're like, okay, this is really creepy. And we're like, would you like to do it right now? And it doesn't spike up, and we're like, do you want to do it later? And it doesn't spike up, so we're like, okay, we're just going to do it now. So we look up how to do a seance, and we're setting up the seance, and we ask it exactly what items it wants. So we do, I'm not going to say all of, like, the stuff, but I'm just going to say the ones that I remember. It wanted a salt circle, it wanted a pentagram, it wanted herbs, it wanted candles, it wanted the EMF reader, it wanted my other EMF reader there, but to the side. It also wanted a glass of water, specifically soap water. It wanted us to be holding hands in a circle, and it wanted it to be on the table. So we get all of that, we set it all up, and we're holding hands in a circle. And we put the EMF reader in the middle of everything, and we turn it on, and we go, is this what you wanted? And instantly, it spikes up, and it goes, yes. And I don't know if this has happened to anybody else, but I can't even explain the feeling. It's like a shock going through your back. Like when you put ice on your back, how it's like a shock going through your body, that kind of thing. But we're doing this, and we ask it, is it behind Violet or Zane? And the EMF reader spikes up, and I'm scared at this point. I want to keep going. My friend wants to stop, and my other friend, who has never done this before, is like, I don't know what to do. So we're still in the basement, we're still doing the seance, and we ask it if it's behind me, and it is. And I can tell that it's behind me. And My cat recently died of September 2022, and it felt like, I swear to God, I heard a meow behind me, and me and my friends were freaking out, and I was crying, and we broke the circle. We let go of each other's hands, and then, I kid you not, the bed was unmade, because right next to us, in the room right over, was the guest room, and the bed was unmade, which it was made when we got down there, and nobody else went down there in that room. And I saw my cat walking across the room, so obviously I run over to it, and I'm like, Kitty! And as it, looks back at me, and then just, vanishes. But, it's not like it, vanished. It's like I felt like I never saw it in the first place. And then we go back, and we say to the EMF reader, we go, we're sorry that we broke the circle. Would you like us to keep going? And it's like, yes. So we put our hands back together, and we're asking more and more questions. And as we're asking more and more questions, it answers more and more. And at some point, we get to the topic of, are you in danger? And it says yes. And we say, would you like our help? It doesn't answer. We're like, is there someone stopping you from answering? And it doesn't answer. And from there on, it doesn't answer until we say, do you want us to stop? And it spikes up. If you blinked at that exact moment, you would not have seen it. It did not even stay up at all. It just spiked and then stopped. We thought that we were hallucinating at that. So when we finally finished, because not much happened from there on, we kept on asking questions, and it did not answer. So later that night, I brought EMF readers into my room, and I turned them on, and I'm laying with one by my head and one by my feet, and my cat used to always sleep by my feet. She would never come up to me. She would always sleep by my feet. And I remember the one by my feet going off, and then I would bring the other EMF reader down there and bring the one that went off by my face, and then the one down by my feet would go off. And I'm crying, and I'm like, Zoe, which is my cat's name, and I can't take this. So when I put my head down there, I heard this distinct meow that's like my cat's meow. It's not like a meow, it's more so like a meow. And I start to cry my eyes out. And when I put my head down by my feet and I hear my cat's meow, the feeling just cannot describe it. I was so happy. And I was like, I can finally talk to my cat again. And then the EMF reader went off, as in saying no. And I said, is someone, not letting you speak? And the EMF reader goes off. And at this point, I can't describe, how scared I was. Because there was something not only in my basement, but following me around the house. It might also have just been because I let it come with me. But then I said, go back down to the basement. You are no longer welcome up here. And the EMF reader went off, as in saying no. And I remember just sitting there stunned. And then I hear this low growl in my closet. And I'm scared out of my mind at this point. And from there on, I turn off the EMF readers. I yell at it, waking up my parents. I yell, go away. And it goes away, and the growl stops. And I go up to my parents, and I tell them the whole thing. They just give me some melatonin, and I sleep. That's the end of the story. Thank you for hearing my story. I would like some answers.
And that right there, listeners, is why you should always be mindful when playing with a Ouija board. You can never be 100% certain who or what is waiting beyond the veil. And it sounds like you had all the ingredients for an otherworldly encounter, Zane. In witchcraft, salt circles, pentagrams, herbs, and candles are all objects with specific meanings and purposes. And unless you know how to use those items safely, you could be in for a rough time. The one thing that stuck out to me, however, is that you and your friends broke the seance circle and ended the Ouija board session without properly closing the so-called spiritual door. Most mediums recommend severing the connection by moving the planchette to the word goodbye, drinking a cold glass of water, and saying a small prayer of thanks for the spirit's participation. If this procedure isn't done, you create the opportunity for negative entities to enter your space, which could explain the growl you heard in your closet. With all that in mind, I'm glad you're safe and sound, Zane, and I can't help but wonder if you're still a skeptic. We appreciate you calling in. Have you also had a wild Ouija session? Or maybe you've received a text message from a ghost? We want to hear about it. Give our hotline a call at 1-833-MAU-KIDS. That's 1-833-MAU-KIDS. Or send a voice memo to monstersamongus.jr@gmail.com. Remember, call from a quiet location, keep your call under 2 minutes, and be sure to get your parent or guardian's permission before calling in. Our next call is less growling ghoul and more soft sofa spirit. Here to give us all the juicy details is first-time caller Millie from Parts Unknown.
My name is Millie, and I am sharing my mom's story. And this story took place in Savannah, Georgia. And my mom was at a party, and she fell asleep in her room. No one was in it, and the couch depressed, and like someone sat next to me. I jumped up, ran, and then I told the person who owned the building, and he said 2 little girls haunted the building. So yeah, that's my story. It's kind of like a ghost story, and love the show. Keep up the good work. Bye.
Thanks, Millie, and Millie's mom, for sharing that story with us. Did you know that Savannah, Georgia is often referred to as one of the most haunted cities in America because it is built on top of thousands of dead bodies? Savannah has endured 3 wars, famines, yellow fever, slavery, and natural disasters, which have left a wave of devastation and destruction in their wake. And one of those victims was little Gracie Watson.
Some ghost stories are so good they need 2 locations, such as the story of little Gracie Watson. It all started here on the corner of Bull and Bryan. That's where little Gracie's father managed the old Pulaski Hotel, now torn down.
The girl, at a very young age, began to entertain for the lavish parties that they would have at the Pulaski Hotel.
Tragically, little Gracie's life ended from a bout of pneumonia when she was just 6 years old. After her death, the little girl's spirit was reportedly still felt within the hotel. When the parties ended, Gracie liked to tug at pant legs and skirts to say goodnight. Little Gracie's grief-stricken father ordered a statue of his daughter made as her headstone. That statue now rests at her gravesite at Bonaventure Cemetery. But as with any good ghost story, death is not the end of this tale. Gracie's story and statue has become very popular with those visiting Savannah and Bonaventure Cemetery.
People still leave gifts and offerings to the little girl at her grave, including toys and flowers, which are her favorite. Some people have accounted, which they found quite eerie, a toy or a flower that they place upon their grave. They'll return later on in the day, or perhaps even an hour later after exploring the rest of that vast cemetery, to find that the toy has been moved, or perhaps even the flower gone.
That clip courtesy of WTOC out of Savannah. So it sounds like we can add another wayward spirit to Savannah's long, long list of supernatural stories. Thanks again, Millie. Okay, friends, my time here is up, But it's not goodbye, it's just see you later, as I pass over the mic to the OG, Derek Hayes.
Does OG stand for old guy? I feel attacked. Anyway, thank you, DB. Well, welcome everyone else to the Season 1 finale of Monsters Among Us Junior. And what a ride it has been. Now we'll talk more about the future of this program here in a moment. But for now, I have a story to share with you. A monster story. Please welcome Lachlan from the state of Idaho.
Hey, this is Lachlan, and I'm from Grangeville, Idaho. I'm a very big fan of this show. Okay, so here we go. It was last year on the birthday. Well, not on my birthday, but it was somewhere around there. It was on the 9th or the 10th of December. I don't remember. So I was 13 at the time, and I was just walking down my friend's house, and he just lives straight down the road at some apartments. So as I get there, we are hanging around for a little bit. And another one of my friends come by, and we were just hanging out the entire time. So I leave about 4-ish. I open the door, and it's snowing out. Just like completely pitch black, even though it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm walking home, and I see these things on the... Like, I see these, like, random shadows. Like, oh, that's weird. But then I noticed this, like, really large one. Like, I'm 5-something, and this thing was at least 2 feet bigger. So I'm walking, and I thought it would just stand there, or it was my imagination. But no, I hear it leap, like it was very heavy, like in the air. You could hear it go, whoosh, just like a really hard one. Like it almost echoed when you jumped. So each of the houses are like very far apart. I remember one of them, it had to jump the entire field to get to the other house. So as I'm walking, it completely hurdles it. So then eventually I get to my house, and nothing happens for a few days. So I go down again, so this is quite different this time. Now it's running around the different apartment blocks. So it jumps from one small one to the bigger one, eventually until it reaches the window of where we were. I was able to see it through the curtain. It wasn't what I expected. It was a large, hairy thing. Like, it was massive. It was very brawny in the shoulders. It had these ears that just pointed up, just like, I don't know how to describe it, but have you ever seen, like, those, Dobermans? Yeah. It had the ears of a Doberman, but its face was like a German Shepherd, but its eyes were just white, just like a solid white color. Like they were glowing almost. Like glowing white eyes. I thought, holy crap, this is the werewolf. This is the werewolf that was going around town. But something about it was just different than what all the other stories were. Like, they described them as having red eyes and not being able to jump at long masses at a time. No, this thing was different. I noticed it had these weird, like, I don't know how to describe them, like little wings almost. Like bat wings almost, but like very small. I don't get how he was able to jump with them. They were like talons almost. Like his arms were almost like wings. And this really weirds me out. And they like put us in this like weird trance. And we were able to hear the same thing. Like it was really hush hush. It was like it was unintelligible whispers, basically. And we were able to hear it clearly, but we didn't hear what he was saying. We were only able to make out one word or so, and there was 3 of us at a time. So we asked each other, what did he say? So my first friend said, remember. And I said, my, and the other said, face. Remember my face, that's what it said. But we weren't able to hear what it was between it. So the entire ordeal was just weird. And at that exact same time, I seen it before. Like, on the 10th, I seen it again. So every single time I went down there, you would see it go into different windows of the apartment blocks. And we all kind of, like, gathered up in one place, and then we went over, like, what it said. And they all said basically the same thing, but a little differently. One of them said, "You must remember this face, for it is the devil." And they all had the same description. Its arms were almost like wings. It had a Doberman like ears, and they had these glowing white eyes. And it eventually stopped in about springtime. So hopefully it's not going to come back again, because somebody said it came back 2 years in a row in 2020 when the pandemic started. So it might be a demon phenomenon or something else. But whatever it is, it's just creepy. It's just weird. And I wish I could include the voice, like what it sounded like. But I can describe it. It was like low, and it was like deafening. Kind of like a echo, like a really deep echo, but you couldn't hear the echo. It was really, really weird. But anyways, I have no idea what it is, so I hope you enjoyed this story, and I just wanted to say thank you to listening to this podcast. It's a very good way to listen to the stories, share your stories, and it's just an amazing thing you have going on, and it really brings people together, and it's just really nice. So, goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Lachlan. Now, it sounded like some sort of Bigfoot encounter you were having until you mentioned those ears. Because most people don't report ears when they claim to see Sasquatch. But there is a cryptid creature out there that people claim does have pointy ears, like a Doberman pinscher. And they call him the Dog Man. Now, we covered this subject briefly back on episode 8. But essentially, the Dog Man is a werewolf-like creature that's said to stalk the cornfields and forests of places like Wisconsin, Kentucky, Ohio, and I suppose now, Idaho. Now, I couldn't recall any other Dog Man sightings from Lachlan's home state, so I did some digging on a website designated for Dog Man sightings. It's called dogmanencounters.com, and the following is just one of 2 reports left on that site that details sightings in the Gem State. It was 3:15 a.m., and I was scraping the ice off my car window. I had to be at work at 4 a.m. I realized it was eerily quiet. I looked up and I saw it walking along the greenbelt going toward the Veteran Parkway Bridge. It was tall, I would guess over 7 feet. It turned its head and looked at me. It had green, neon-colored glowing eyes. It had dark brown fur all over its body, pointed ears, a long snout, weird legs, a tail. I got a pretty good look at it. I was frozen with fear and didn't move until I saw it vanish behind the building that is next to the bridge. Now you can find a link to this sighting and another from Idaho in tonight's show notes. Now this is my favorite cryptid, so of course I'm going to encourage you do your own research on the creature. But just beware of what you might uncover. Thank you again, Lachlan, for taking the time to call in. Alright kids, sadly it is time for us to say goodbye, at least for now. Now this completes the first season of this program, which means no new episodes for a while. The MAU Mima and I are still in the planning stages in regards to when we're going to return. But in the meantime, the hotline will remain open. So if you see something strange, experience something odd, or witness something eerie, give us a call. With your parents' or guardians' permission, of course. That number is 833-MAU-KIDS, or shoot us an email at monstersamongus.jr@gmail.com. Be sure to keep the magic alive and keep those calls coming, even while we're off the air. Alright, Monsters Among Us Jr. is written and produced by Derek Hayes and Delaney Bowers. Copyright Red Crow Media. Additional support is provided by Sarah Carter Hayes. All media used in this production is done so under the protection of fair use. Tonight's score was provided by Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse, Co.ag Music, and Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. And lastly, the Monsters Among Us Jr. theme was written and produced by Ali Mamarian. Thank you all for an amazing season. We appreciate all the phone calls, and most especially, we appreciate you listening along. Now, on behalf of Delaney Bowers and myself, keep it spooky and have a great night.